Well, we made it to Friday, third graders, and I have the second Scholastic News in front of me, the one dated November 2nd, that looks like this. Very interesting cover page. I had to sit and just read this for a while. It kind of drew me in, like, what is this all about? It says stolen gold on the front cover. 500 years ago, soldiers from Spain, which is a country in Europe over by France and Italy, soldiers from Spain battled the Aztecs to take their land and treasures. Amazing facts inside this issue about Mexico you'll want to share. So I'm interested to see what is inside this issue. The illustrations are just very unique. Look at the old ships. See some soldiers here. Lost treasure. Who doesn't like a good lost treasure story, right? Gold found in Mexico once belonged to a mighty empire. Now, we've talked about Mexico a little bit. It is the country that is to the south of us, south of the United States. It is part of North America. So Mexico is our neighbor. As you read, let's think about this. Why do experts think the gold bar is such an important artifact? So a gold bar would be like a big solid brick of gold. Very valuable. In 1981, a worker was digging at the site of a new bank in Mexico City, Mexico. He pulled something surprising from the mud. It was a gold bar that weighed about 4 pounds. Archaeologists studied the bar, but questions remained. Who did it belong to? Now, nearly 40 years later, experts agree that the gold was stolen from the Aztecs. Well, who were the Aztecs? A powerful people. The Aztecs settled in what is now known as central Mexico about 700 years ago. They built a mighty civilization that thrived, that means it did well, for about 200 years. There were several million Aztecs, says Michael Smith, a professor at Arizona State University. They had a large, complex society. So, now just backing up a minute, archaeologists are people who study the remains of human cultures and societies, and civilization is a highly developed and organized society. All right. The Aztecs built amazing temples and palaces. They developed advanced ways of farming and created a writing system that used symbols. Aztec children went to school and studied art, history, and music. Surprise visitors. In 1519, the Aztec Empire was at the peak of its power. That year, conquistadors, or soldiers from Spain, arrived. So back in the 1500s is kind of about the time where we had explorers coming across the ocean on ships, and they wanted to explore new lands. And so some soldiers from Spain arrived. They were led by Hernan Cortez. And that's a Spanish name, which is why I'm not saying Hernan. It's pronounced Hernan Cortez. Different languages pronounce things differently. The Aztec ruler Montezuma II wasn't sure he could trust the visitors, but he invited them to stay in his palace in Tenochtitlan, the biggest Aztec city. The Spaniards weren't very good guests. For one thing, they began stealing Aztec jewelry. They had metal workers melt down a lot of the jewelry and form it into gold bars, Smith explains. The sad night. Soon the Spanish soldiers took Montezuma II prisoner. He was killed on June 30th, 1520. Historians aren't sure exactly who killed him. So who was Montezuma? He was the Aztec ruler, and the Spaniards killed him. But the Aztecs blamed the Spanish. They chased the invaders from the city. The Spanish soldiers carried bars of gold and other treasures they had stolen from the Aztecs. Some soldiers dropped the gold as they tried to escape. Other soldiers fell into the city's waterways and drowned. The night became known as La Noche Triste, or the sad night. Noche, I know in Spanish, is night. So triste, Hmm, maybe sad. Montezuma's death was the beginning of the end of the Aztec Empire. So their leader was killed. So they didn't do so well after that. After fleeing Tenochtitlan that night, Cortez and his army returned about a year later. So the Spanish left, but they came back the next year. They conquered the Aztecs and set up a new colony, a golden clue. The gold bar discovered in 1981 was found in the area where the soldiers escaped. Experts examined the gold with a special type of X-ray machine. This helped them match it with other gold Aztec artifacts from that time period. Smith says the gold bar is the first solid proof of the events that took place on La Noche Triste. It's a real connection to one of the ancient civilizations. Now, I see there is a video that they've connected. If I can figure out how to link it to you, I will. Otherwise, we may need to wait until you come back, and then we need to remember to try to watch that, to try to bring that to life. So I'm looking up here at the illustration. Here we have a map of Mexico. Today, Mexico City is built on the buried ruins of the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan. So here we have that. Of course, the United States is up above to the north. And here's Mexico, and then going down into Central America, some other countries there. Which body of water is along the western coast of Mexico? That would be this side. This is the west. This is east. This little compass rose shows you the directionals, N being for north. The north is always, almost always, at the top of the map. South is the opposite. West to the left, east to the right on maps. So this would be the western side. And here you have the Pacific Ocean. The Atlantic Ocean would be on this side. And here you have the Gulf of Mexico. Interesting. All right, we're going on. And we have some more information here on Mexico. What's up, world? Mexico, Mexico. Learn what everyday life is like in this nation next door, our neighbor. Imagine you live in Mexico and you just woke up. Buenos dias. That's how you say good morning in Spanish. Buenos dias. Breakfast is your favorite meal, beans with rice and tea. Because it's Saturday, you don't have school. After you eat, your little sister asks you to watch Cleo and Cuquín with her. It's a TV show about using your imagination to have fun. Your abuelo or grandfather lives with you. He's promised to teach you how to play hayalai, possibly, when you're older. That super fast sport is tricky for kids. So you spend an hour playing soccer with your amigos or friends. And then some words to know. We've talked about the word tortilla, how you don't say tortilla, but the L's have like a Y sound, and you'd say tortilla, which are thin corn cakes. And native, naturally belonging to a person, or into a place. A person that is native to an area, maybe their people have been there for a very long time. Hungry for lunch? It's the biggest meal of the day. After sharing grilled chicken and tortillas with the whole family, you take a siesta or nap. Don't forget, your cousin's birthday party is tonight. You hope she'll have a piñata filled with Vero mango. Those mango-flavored lollipops covered in chile powder are delicious. Keep reading to learn more about Mexico. How does it compare with your community? And there's a video that we can watch there too. Travel to this amazing country. Look at that. During most years, millions of tourists visit Mexico. Many travel to interesting places like this pyramid. It was built long ago by people known as the Maya in a city called Chichen Itza. Chichen Itza. Wow. I have not been here. I've been over the border into Mexico, but not very far, so I can't really say I've traveled in Mexico. Let's eat. Street food served from carts or food trucks is popular in Mexico. Favorite street food included tacos, tamales, and quesadillas. Yum. Many Mexicans love lime juice on their tacos. So lime is a big flavor for the Mexican people. What do we have here? This axolotl is native to lakes in Mexico. Its habitat is in danger, and scientists are needed to help the species survive. He's a different looking little critter, isn't he? Kind of cute, though. And here we have a young lady dressed up, celebrating Day of the Dead. A holiday called Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is celebrated from October 31st until November 2nd. To honor dead relatives, people put on skeleton costumes and dance in parades. Isn't that so colorful? Look at the interesting face art there. Wow. Fun and games. Soccer is the most popular sport in Mexico, but baseball is a favorite too. This boy is on the Mexican team playing in a recent Little League World Series. Map it out. Mexico has many different landscapes. It has mountains, beaches, rainforests, and deserts. It also has one of the largest cities in the world, Mexico City. Where's my finger? There, down in the center of Mexico. How is this map similar to the map on page 3 of this issue? How is it different? So you can see Mexico again, but all in red. If we go back to page 3, oops, excuse me, similar, but it was kind of highlighting a different thing, and it kind of shows you more of Central America here. So maps sometimes are used for different purposes. And I don't know. Oh, the red, the Aztec Empire. This map, of course, is highlighting the Aztec Empire. And then Mexico City is there, but the purpose was really to show you how far the Aztecs spread out over Mexico. And this map really just shows you Mexico. Doesn't mention the Aztecs at all. Look at that beautiful palace that's in Mexico City. Wouldn't that be beautiful, fun place to visit? Home to art by some of Mexico's most famous artists like Diego Rivera. All right, our next story. My story, My Mom's in the Navy. 10-year-old Travis King III of Georgia describes what life is like with a parent in the military. November 11th is Veterans Day, a holiday honoring people who have served in America's military. In my family, it's a special day. My mom serves in the U.S. Navy. My mom is Jasmine Waters, and she's part of a team that watches out for safety on a Navy ship. She's been in the Navy since I was 2. She sometimes gets deployed or sent on military missions. When she's away, my grandparents take care of me. This year, my mom was deployed for 206 days in a row. That's the longest a Navy ship has ever been at sea. To stay in touch, we FaceTimed, texted, and emailed. When my mom got back in August, she surprised me. I was at the park when my mom snuck up behind me. I jumped up to hug her. I was so excited. We spent weeks doing fun stuff together. Soon my mom will leave on another big deployment. It will be hard being apart, but I am proud of her and I'm glad she does what she does. Whenever I see signs thanking veterans, I say to myself, hey, one day they'll be honoring my mom. What a lot these families of military people go through, being separated for so long. 206 days is getting close. Well, it's over half of a year. And so that's a long time. So bless those people that are willing to make that sacrifice and the families that miss them. Travis sends drawings to his mom when she is away. You can show other military members and veterans that you appreciate them too. Draw a picture or write a letter. Send it to your local American Legion, a veterans group. All right. Take the voting challenge. Oh, we've had election day, haven't we? November 3rd was election day. Americans will vote for a president and other leaders. Check out these facts about voting, then answer the 2 questions. Who can vote? Voting rights in national elections have changed throughout U.S. history. Back in 1789, only white men who own land and are 21 or older can vote. If you were a woman, or if you were a man who did not own land, then you could not vote. So it was very, very, very specific, a small amount of people that were allowed to vote. Thomas Peterson in 1870, so almost 100 years later, was the first black man to vote. So the 15th Amendment to the Constitution gives the right to vote to black men. We'll talk more about the forming of our country, the United States, and the Constitution this year. We're not that far yet in social studies, but at one point then in our history, there was an amendment, which is a change that was added to our Constitution that allowed people of color to vote, but that didn't always happen. And it wasn't until 1920 that women won the right to vote with the 19th Amendment. So I'm thankful for those people that fought for those rights so that all people, all citizens, ages 18 and over in the United States have the right to vote. Men, women, people of color, no matter who you are. How long have women had the right to vote? Well, since 1920. And the year is 2020. So how many years is that? That's 100 years, guys. It's been 100 years. So we are celebrating 100 years of women having the right to vote in this country. In 1924, Native Americans got the right to vote. So I misspoke when I said all people of color. Black men had the right to vote back in 1870, but it wasn't until 1924 that Native Americans were afforded the right to vote. In 1971, I was 1 year old. The 26th Amendment lowers the voting age to 18. So at one point it was 21, and it wasn't until I was 1 year old that 18-year-olds were allowed to vote. So there have been definite changes over the years. Why is the election in November? Well, long ago, most voters were farmers. November was after crops were harvested, but before winter weather made it hard to travel to voting places. That makes sense. It worked for them. In the 2016 presidential election, only about 6 out of every 10 Americans old enough to vote did. So not everybody did. I think that number was much higher this year. We had a very high voter turnout. It will be interesting to see the percentage when all votes are counted and that's figured out. So this video is getting long, so I'm going to tell you to go ahead and finish reading on your own. Take a look at our armed forces back here. A chart that talks about our Army and Navy and Air Force and Marines and what those armed forces groups do for us, the Coast Guard. And President Trump, our current president, has added the Space Force. I don't really know much about what the Space Force does, but that would be something you could check out, and you can kind of go through some of the questions that go through the reading. So hope you found this interesting. I thought the story about the Aztecs was very interesting. So enjoy your afternoon.